What's going on, guys? Kevin Sampson, Picture Lock. Right now, I have Adam Henry Garcia, the writer and director of Conversations from the Afterlife, on Skype with me. Adam, what's going on? Thanks for being on the show.
Hey Kevin, what's up, man? Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, so Conversations from the Afterlife is going to be playing at the DC Web Fest. Could you give our audience just a brief description of the web series?
Yeah, for sure. It's I'd call it a dark comedy. I don't know if that comedy comes across to everyone, but it's definitely sort of a dark tale. It's basically about redemption. A guy who sold his soul. He's like partitioned off in the corner of the afterlife in like the worst possible place. And basically, it's his journey to sort of get back to a better place. And I think something worth noting is that it sounds grand and dark and epic, but it's those concepts mixed with like water cooler talk and like Kevin Smith style like potty mouth and kind of like normal person sort of banter. It just happens to be taking place in like the after world and like this ethereal sort of space. But I like the dichotomy of that is one of the important parts, I think.
Right, and let's just talk about how you came up with the idea because a lot of times you think about the afterlife and it goes. I think it was written well in terms of setting up at least the afterlife within Conversations, the web series. But what inspired you to create this world?
It's funny. I feel like the tagline is what we know about the afterlife is nothing. And in so many ways, there's lots of faith, there's lots of beliefs, there's lots of conversations, but the concrete evidence about what happens, like I saw Defending Your Life, the Albert Brooks movie.
Mm.
It's just such a cool take on what happens after you die. Like they go to basically like an Epcot Center kind of world and they just kind of wait to defend the choices they made in their first life. And it was like, that's brilliant. And like tangents like that. In some ways, I always like to work on stuff that confronts fears and deals with fears. Death is a scary topic, but I think when you craft a universe like this and sort of mess around with the concept of what the afterlife could be, in some ways, maybe it just makes it a little bit less ominous. And it can be amusing. Like committee meetings about like who's eating all the donuts in the fridge in hell, like stuff like that.
Right.
I feel like it can be amusing, but in some ways it's also kind of therapeutic because it takes the edge off of that scary thing.
Yeah, most definitely. I find it interesting that you can sell your soul, and then it's like, am I gonna remember this? No. All right, I'll do it. So, can you just talk a little bit about?
Yeah, he's a lot more comfortable with doing it, knowing that.
Right, right, right. All right, can you talk a little bit about what makes the web series special and stand out? Because I think it does. I really haven't seen any web series that are like this.
Oh, thanks. I think, I mean, to be honest, I think one thing that stands out is the process because I sort of filmed it as I could afford to, and as a result, needed to do sort of like vignette scenes. So a couple actors at a time, and 2 months could go by, and then I'd be able to afford to do another one. And I think sort of the process linked with the actors that I used. There's just so many talented people involved, and it's a lot of people I went to college with, and then some people I saw in festivals, loved what they did, and contacted them. Just sort of a motley mix of people in Brooklyn and Manhattan and Queens, and I think that's kind of what makes it stand out. They all took it seriously, and yeah, it was really, as an editor, you watch your stuff 1,000 times, and I still found things funny after like the 1,000th time, and I think a lot of it is a credit to the actors and their ability. So yeah, that's what's special. I think that's a standout.
Yeah. All right,
And
so
some of the dark writing, some of the writing is just filthy stuff. Early on, the first episode is just very unfriendly, which is what's going to be at the festival, and I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind
definitely
of.
not suitable for work or for me to watch with my kids while I'm.
Oh no! And I have a son, and he's 20 months old, and the next thing I do is going to be a lot more appropriate for him to look at because this is not cool at all for him to be seeing until he's like 25. Even though
Right.
legal age for everything else is 21, 25 for this.
That's awesome. What? So, okay, this is we're geeking out. I'm geeking out on taking a side tangent. My son is almost 20 months as well. He was born July 7th
Nice.
last year.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Thanks, man. I guess maybe one day they'll play in the sandbox together or something.
Dude, that would be awesome. Or work on something, produce something together.
Right. One will be the critic, the other the director. All right, let's get
Well,
back
as
to
long as you
it.
keep it amicable, nice and friendly.
Exactly. All right. So, what are some of the short and long term goals for your series?
To be honest, the short as it stands was to kind of make something on my own that just wasn't under a producer's umbrella aside from myself and wasn't sort of on anyone else's clock. And it was like sort of the quiet goal. Nobody knew when it was going to be finished because it was just sort of on my terms. And, I've done a lot of different work, and I feel like it's pretty healthy and important to do that kind of work sometimes. And then it was to get it out into the world, screen it at fests like DC Web, and just kind of get a little love, maybe show people something I hadn't seen before. And ultimately, I'd love to see some interest for potential future production, like a second season, or maybe someone takes interest in the crazy person who wrote all this, and maybe there's a conversation to be had there. Other sort of goals that aren't specific to the show, like some of the actors can, beef up their reel, and maybe they get a second look, and just stuff like that, like a community kind of moment. There's like family and friends involved in it too, but I would be lying if I said I wouldn't like to see it get some love in terms of development for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, who wouldn't? Why else
Yeah.
would you create it? That's
In
fine.
some ways, right? I mean, it's like when it's done, you're like, okay, does anyone like this? you know, you
Right.
don't
Well, it's
walk
gonna be
away.
play. It's gonna be playing at DC Webfest, so I'm sure you're gonna be able to, just get that audience reaction, which is always awesome, right? To see
That's
or hear the reaction from a live audience.
It's true, especially when something is committed, even if it's extreme one side or the other, and you get, I loved it, I hated it, like, then you've done something. Then you made something. Anything that's always in the middle, I don't know, it's probably been done before. Like the opposite poles, I feel like this could be one of those, to be honest.
Right. Awesome. All right. So, web series sometimes it can be a little bit hard to pin down as a festival, but what makes play or festivals like DC Web Fest important to actually getting your voice out there? Because honestly, we're moving to this online medium, Netflix, Crackle. There's so many different online distributors. So it's really the kind of the wave of the future. Although it's been around for a while, it's like people are just kind of catching on to it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, in some ways, like the web series allows you to still sort of be a little bit new. And that's not to be mistaken for like green or amateur, but it allows people, I think, to kind of do stuff that is riskier, that is not getting greenlit over here. They can sort of make it themselves in a way. And I think that's really fascinating and exciting and leads to some really awesome content. Like, yeah, it might be a little rough around this edge or that corner, but I mean, sometimes that full freedom of expression that a web fest and a web series allows, I think, yeah, that is the wave of the future. And if we're lucky, that's what seeps into television and film. Not that it isn't there, but there's an element of web that is just like nakedly creative. And you don't have an army of producers, and you don't necessarily have big focus groups making decisions at the end of the day. And, really sketchy lines like some of the stuff in between the two characters in the first episode of Conversations is just something that it will get passed because there's no censorship board. There's no, there's nobody really reining it in, and that
Right.
could be to the betterment or the detriment. But it's totally honest, and I think with web, the honesty is paramount, and I think that's awesome for artists for artistic expression.
Most definitely. All right. So, how can people actually watch the series, Adam?
I was just real sort of like Steve Jobs, nobody coming in or out kind of moment, and just did just the website. It's on www.conversationsfromtheafterlife.com. When you go over there, there's a sort of tag type deal, and then below that, just a full player window, all 9 episodes, as easy as you please. Then there's cast, crew, bios, and some extra stuff, trailer, that kind of thing. But that's it. It's not on YouTube now, and it's not currently. It's on Vimeo, but they're all locked links to be sent sort of here and there. So yeah, exclusively the website for now. That's kind of how it's working, and the screenings at the festival.
Nice. Awesome. Well, again, it's going to be screening at the DC Web Fest March 4th, so people can definitely check it out then. Or, as you said, go visit the website. Adam, congratulations on actually creating a series because, a lot of times as filmmakers, you come up with an idea and you're like, oh, I should do this, but it's a different thing when you actually have a tangible product in the content. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I have a stack of those things that I have not done. So this one actually
Dude,
got
I have
done.
an Excel spreadsheet full of ideas.
Right. Some cocktail napkins with ideas scribbled on them. Yeah, sure.
Right. All right, Adam, great talking with you. Thanks for coming on the show.
You too, Kevin. Thanks so much for having me, man. And have fun with your son.
Thanks, you too, bro.